about, look, they might ultimately do a good job, but we thought it was a little early to do the backslapping when a lot of their constituents were doing the finger raising. On the phone with us now, Texas Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, I had your colleague Shaka Fattah of Pennsylvania with me saying, give FEMA another $14 billion right now, even if we have to go into debt to pay for it. What say you?
I think it's a bad idea. When is it going to stop? What are the limits? And evidently there are no limits, and they probably will. They're already $18 billion in debt, and they want another 14 for a program that causes people to do dumb things. I mean, this is why people build on the beaches and on the coast, is because the market doesn't provide insurance for them; the government does. So people who don't get to build nice houses on the beach have to pay for the rebuilding of this. It's a terrible program, and I've had this position for a long time, and I get many times more calls complaining about FEMA than I ever get complaining about my position with FEMA. So, and it's never hurt me politically, so the people aren't even with this. But I have to say, though, that when the trouble hits, we have this program, it's government. I try to make these things work, but quite frankly, they can't work. They're just going to help drive us into bankruptcy, and all this will have to end.
Well, you always look, I know you risk it, and I admire you for that. You always look cruel when you say no to FEMA, because you know a thing or two about FEMA's track record. And even now, we're hearing from people on the scene and folks with folks at Staten Island, New York's beleaguered borough there, where they keep saying, help us on the way, help us on the way. FEMA's there, but water bottles aren't there. Basic creature comforts aren't there. The basic supplies they needed were delayed. And if it were not for private funding efforts and the likes of Walmart getting involved, much as that retailer did after Katrina, there'd be no help there. But now we're getting word, Congressman, from FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate that, and I'm quoting here, sir, more than $210 million has been approved for individuals to assist with housing and other disaster-related needs. The problem with that money seems to be it's not immediately dispersed. You can approve it, but it doesn't mean it gets into those affected hot little hands right away. It could be weeks or months, right?
No, and that's when the congressman will be called, and that's when we would get our calls, and people would beg and plead. They've been told this. They had paid their flood insurance. When are we going to get it? And it's very, very difficult. Can you believe it? It's bureaucratic. It's very slow, and it's very inefficient. And, when the private companies have insurance, I think they do get the checks to the people much quicker. Right. But FEMA is an obstacle. It gets in the way of local authorities. For the first 204 years of our history, the federal government was never involved in natural disasters. And after Katrina, you'd think the people and the government and the politicians would wake up and say, maybe this isn't the best way to do things. But no, it continues the same way. We never change our way. And none of this is going to end until we declare our bankruptcy and admit that we don't have any money. And the congressman that can casually say, $14 billion, no big deal. But where does he think it comes from? It comes from poor people. Because if you borrow it, they're indebted. If you don't borrow it, you print it, they get the inflation, or you get the business cycle, and they end up without their jobs, and they think it's for free. They have to wake up and see that everything costs something. Every time government spends money, it is a cost and a tax, and comes back and unfortunately hits the middle class more than anybody else, especially the low middle income middle class who try to survive. They suffer the most from all these programs, even with this pretense that they're going to take care of us forever.
Well, and you always look cruel if you oppose it, but then you just say, well, the track record is such. It's like these telethons and everything they do. Their hearts are always in the right place. But, if Haiti got a fraction of the money that was pledged to it after earthquakes and disasters, it would look like Atlantis right now. But
that's right.
Last time I checked, it does not.
Same thing over and over again. Yeah. And the good intentions, where that will take us.
Yeah. We got to think through this, folks. We got to think through this. Ron Paul, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.